In this adventurous story, it begins by showing the future where, instead of great advancements, the world is struck by severe famine and people's living conditions have become worse than ever. Yet, on Earth, some royal groups still live their lives in luxury, treating poor people like ants they could crush at any moment. Connected to all this, we are shown a game hosted by two presenters, one of whom is named Caesar, discussing it with his partner. They explain that the wealthy elite of the world created this game for the poor. Almost every district is forced to participate, and two people are chosen from each one. The selected participants must play a deadly game, but the team that survives all levels and wins will have their families accepted into the royal class. In reality, the rich are only interested in expanding their own circle, but the poor are willing to risk death for the chance. Just how dangerous the games are, we will soon find out. We are then shown a very poor district where a girl named Kate lives with her younger sister Rim, who is terrified of the upcoming game because anyone in their district could be chosen, and there was no way to back out. Kate comforts Rim, assuring her that her name won't come up. Later, Kate heads into the forest to hunt, using a bow and arrows hidden behind trees. Just as she tries to shoot, her close friend Gale arrives, distracting her and causing her to miss her mark. Kate and Gale care deeply for each other and dream of living a peaceful life together, but with no resources, both entered their names into the deadly game. Gale had tried every year but was never chosen, while Kate, for the first time, entered her name to protect her family. After speaking with Gale, Kate goes to the market and stops at an old woman's stall, where she notices a strange-looking badge. The old woman gifts it to her, saying it would protect her no matter what. Kate takes it back and gives it to Rim, telling her it will keep her safe, which comforts her little sister. Soon, the whole district gathers for the selection ceremony. A woman named Whitey conducts the process, standing before a bowl containing the names of all participants. She explains the rules and begins drawing names. The first name drawn is Rim, shocking her and devastating Kate, who knows the game is deadly. To protect her sister, Kate steps forward and claims Rim's place. The second name drawn is a boy named Eddie, who joins Kate at the front. These two are chosen to represent their district and must now work as a team in the lethal game, with no chance of backing out. Whitey takes Kate and Eddie onto a luxurious train that will stop at each district to collect two more players, eventually bringing them all to the place where the games will begin. As Whitey leaves to gather more candidates, Kate and Eddie suddenly meet a man named Head who is already present on the train. After talking, Kate and Eddie learn that Head was the man who had won the Hunger Games the previous year, earning the highest points and joining the royal group. However, at that moment, Head was heavily drunk and kept scaring the two children. Still, Kate and Eddie asked him how they could win and what strategy he had used. Calming down slightly, Head explained that he couldn't reveal every detail, but their behavior and the way they built connections with others would carry them forward. The key was to collect the highest points throughout the game, which would decide who rose to the top. Though Kate and Eddie didn't fully understand, they began to see Head as a mentor who could guide them. Once two players were chosen from every district, the train arrived in the capital city, home of the royal families and the place where the deadly games were held each year before massive crowds. First, the participants were taken for grooming. Fashion designers performed manicures, pedicures, and styled them to look impressive before the public. Since all contestants came from poor backgrounds, the royals insisted on presenting them with luxury and style they had never experienced. Kate's fashion designer told her she was beautiful and reminded her that her district was known for its coal mines, so he planned a special suit for her and Eddie. Unsure of what to expect, they allowed him to proceed. Once all players were dressed, each team was introduced to the president in a grand ceremony. The two hosts from the beginning of the story were also present, discussing the strategies of the games. As the audience filled the arena, teams began making their entrances. When Kate and Eddie walked in, they wore black suits designed to emit flames from the back. This dramatic display shocked everyone, even the president, who stood to watch them. Their entrance captivated the crowd, and many spectators instantly predicted that Kate and Eddie would be the winners. But appearances alone didn't decide victory. The point system would determine everything. The president welcomed the players, announcing that the games would begin in exactly 1 week, and until then, they would be given luxury accommodations and full facilities, along with freedom to train. For the first time in their lives, the poor contestants experienced opulence they could never have imagined. What they didn't realize was that death in the arena was entertainment for the royals. Later, at a dining table, Head warned Kate and Eddie to stay alert, follow every rule carefully, and gather as many points as possible, for their survival depended on it. Despite his flaws, he truly wanted them to succeed like he once had. Over the next 4 days, The players trained relentlessly, each choosing a weapon for the tournament. Some practiced archery, others spears, and each had to finalize their techniques before the deadly contest began. In this tournament, some players could launch direct attacks while others might lie in wait to ambush their rivals. The day finally arrived when each participant would showcase their skills and be awarded points accordingly. When Kate's turn came, she chose archery, something she truly enjoyed, but her first arrow missed the target, causing the decision-makers to laugh and assume her team would be the first to die. Hurt by their mockery, Kate quickly drew another arrow and shot straight at an apple placed on their table, hitting it perfectly. Everyone was stunned, and because of her boldness and confidence, she was awarded extra points, putting her at the top early on. Eddie, however, began to feel jealous of Kate, as he wasn't performing as impressively. On the final day before the games, each contestant was brought on stage to introduce themselves, share their background, and explain their strategy. When it was Eddie's turn, he revealed that he came from the lowest level district and worked as a butcher. To everyone's surprise, he added that he knew Kate and that they liked each other, hinting that their friendship might grow into love. This immediately captured the attention of the hosts and audience, but when Kate heard it, she grew angry. She didn't like Eddie that way, and he was lying. Afterward, Kate scolded him for making false claims, but Head stepped in and admitted the idea had been his. He explained that if the audience believed there was a love angle between them, it would make their team the center of attention and gain more support, since decision-makers favored the contestants loved by the audience. Even though the logic made sense, Kate still didn't feel comfortable and went to bed angry, refusing to speak to Eddie. To her, Eddie felt like an enemy, though he remained determined to win the tournament alongside her. The next day, the games began. From the control room, the president's officials transported each player into cubes and dropped them into a massive abandoned forest. In front of them was a camping site filled with survival gear and weapons. Each contestant had just 60 seconds to grab what they could, but they were also warned that they could steal supplies from others, or even kill them to take it. The countdown started, and chaos erupted as players raced for equipment. Bloodshed broke out immediately, and many contestants lost their lives in the opening minutes. Head had advised Kate beforehand to grab only what was essential for survival, and luckily, she managed to secure a bag before escaping into the forest. Eddie, meanwhile, joined an alliance of players who offered him protection as they moved forward together. Kate climbed high into a tree with her bag, hoping to remain safe. Reports soon revealed that out of the original number of players, only a small group had survived the brutal opening clash, while the rest had already been eliminated. Settled in the tree, Kate opened her bag to see what resources she had managed to secure. The bag held some ropes, water, and a knife, enough to help her survive if she followed Hamid's guidance. The remaining players had formed groups and scattered across the forest while the game controllers narrated every moment to the watching districts, who hoped their chosen fighters would win. The makers, however, wanted to make things more dramatic. They set fires near where Kate was hiding so the flames would spread through the forest and drive her toward the surviving groups, putting her in grave danger. As she ran, her feet were burned, but she kept going until a group, one that included Eddie, cornered her. Eddie didn't want to hurt Kate, but to survive to the end he felt compelled to stay with the group. Kate realized they would take her supplies and likely kill her, so she climbed a tree with her bag. Several members of the group began to climb after her, trying to pull her down, but Eddie told them to wait. Eventually she would have to come down, and they could ambush her then, so they made camp nearby to wait and steal her supplies later. Eddie's words suggested he didn't actually want Kate dead. While Kate sat up in the tree, Head sent a drone with a note praising her play and reminding her to prioritize survival over fighting. He also sent medicine from Hamid for her wound. That reassurance gave Kate a little courage, and she slept in the tree. In the morning she found her wound had started to heal, but the hostile group was still below, hunting her. Then she noticed a girl named Grow, who told her she had to use the bees to escape. The tree held a huge hive, and if Kate could topple it, the swarm would attack the people below and buy her an opening to flee. Kate followed Grow's plan and knocked the hive loose. These were not ordinary bees. Their stings could knock a person out or even kill them. The swarm descended on the sleeping attackers. Chaos ensued, many fled to save themselves, and one girl was stung so badly she died. When Kate finally climbed down, Eddie urged her to run because the others were coming for her, but some of the bees had also stung Kate and she collapsed, unconscious. Hours later she woke to find Grow sitting over her. Kate thanked her profusely and learned that Grow was a master of hiding, which explained how she had survived this long. The two talked and began to form a team. Grow explained that to survive to the end they would need to stay hidden and quickly deplete opposing teams' resources. She had a plan. A nearby rival camp had concentrated its supplies in one spot, so Grow would set a small fire and scream to draw attention while Kate and the others attacked the distracted camp and destroyed its resources. Grow left to start the distraction, shouting until the enemy groups moved toward her, and in that commotion Kate slipped closer to the rival camp. She had been trying to destroy their resources, but the camp members had cleverly fortified their territory, surrounding it with strategically placed mines that would make any intrusion deadly. Kate, thinking quickly, came up with a daring plan. She lined up several apples and aimed carefully. When the apples tumbled forward, they landed squarely on the mines, triggering an enormous explosion that tore through the area with devastating force. The blast was so powerful that it completely wiped out all the resources the camp had painstakingly gathered, leaving nothing behind. Everything seemed to be unfolding perfectly according to her plan, but as Kate moved closer to Grow, danger struck again. A man leaped out of nowhere, attacking them both. Kate narrowly avoided harm, but Grow wasn't so lucky. He was gravely injured. Acting swiftly, Kate drew her bow and eliminated the enemy with a precise arrow, but she realized time was running out for Grow. Weak and barely able to speak, he looked at her with a faint smile and whispered, "Please, before I go, tell me a good story." Kate knelt beside him and recounted a heartfelt tale, her voice steady despite the tears in her eyes. Grow listened intently, his breathing slowing, until finally he closed his eyes forever, leaving Kate alone in the aftermath. Alone and exhausted, she had no choice but to shift her focus entirely to her own survival. Meanwhile, news of Grow's death had reached his people in the surrounding districts, igniting fury and rebellion against the royal family. His district's forces stormed into the territory, wreaking havoc, destroying everything in their path, and setting the stage for potentially catastrophic consequences. Determined to press on despite the chaos, Kate continued her journey, only to encounter Eddie, who had taken refuge within a cluster of rocks to save his life, peeking out cautiously as if unsure whether to trust her yet. Eddie had also suffered serious injuries, and Kate immediately began tending to him, carefully assessing his wounds and doing what she could to stabilize him. Eddie revealed the painful truth. The group he had been traveling with had betrayed him, beating him severely and leaving him in such a dire state that he had no choice but to hide near the rocks to survive. Once again, Kate and Eddie found themselves reunited, and they quickly decided to move forward together as a team. Hammett had been assisting them intermittently, providing guidance and even some food supplies when he could, helping them survive the harsh conditions. As morning arrived, a broadcast from the game controllers announced that a cache of resources had been placed at a specific location for all the remaining players. The announcement emphasized that there were ample supplies of food and essential items, but the catch was that whoever arrived first could claim as much as they wanted. Kate and Eddie knew they needed those resources urgently, so they set off immediately toward the designated spot. Other players had also spotted the resource location, but their priority was to eliminate their competition before claiming the supplies. Upon reaching the area, they found 3 bags, each labeled with a different player's number. Kate's mind immediately went to Eddie's number, reasoning that his bag would surely contain the medicine they desperately needed. Opening the bags confirmed her suspicions. Each bag had been stocked according to the individual player's specific needs, and the one marked with Eddie's number held exactly what they required to recover and continue their journey. On Eddie's number, reasoning that it would contain medicine and supplies essential for his recovery. Her intuition was correct. The bag held exactly what they needed, and she quickly administered the medicine, ensuring Eddie would be well enough to continue. As Kate reached for the bag, 2 other players appeared, attacking her. In the ensuing chaos, they fought each other so fiercely that both ended up killing each other, leaving Kate free to grab the supplies and rush them to Eddie. Just as they began to regain their strength, a new threat emerged. The top-ranked player, known as Player Number 1, appeared, striking with deadly precision. Kate narrowly avoided his attacks, but Eddie was captured in the struggle. Meanwhile, the controllers at the control center exercised near-absolute power over the environment, capable of turning day into night and night into day at will. They even sent artificial leopards into the forest to hunt the players, forcing Kate and Eddie to flee for their lives. Using the terrain to their advantage, Kate led them to the top of a camping site where the leopards couldn't follow, but the top-ranked player remained a looming, lethal threat. With Eddie in danger, Kate raised her bow, aiming directly at him, prepared to fight with everything she had, knowing that in this brutal, unpredictable game, survival demanded quick thinking, ruthless action, and unwavering determination. Player Number 1 sneered, taunting Kate with cold words. "It would be better for you to finish both of your competitors at once. That way, you can claim this game for yourself." The tension was suffocating, but Eddie, despite his exhaustion, gave Kate a sharp signal with his eyes and a subtle gesture toward their enemy's hand. Without hesitation, Kate steadied her bow. Her aim was flawless, her hands unshaking despite the danger. The arrow sliced through the air and struck player number 1's hand with perfect precision, forcing him to stumble and crash to the ground. In an instant, the swarm of artificial leopards pounced on him, tearing into him viciously. Their snarls and the sound of ripping flesh filled the forest. Yet Kate, unwilling to let him suffer such a brutal end, fired one final arrow into his chest, granting him a swift and merciful death. With their greatest rival gone, Kate and Eddie collapsed in relief, overwhelmed with joy. They had survived the impossible and emerged victorious. Back in their districts, celebrations erupted as supporters cheered for their champions. A formal announcement echoed through the arena. Kate and Eddie were declared the winners. As their prize, their families were to be elevated into the ranks of the royal family, showered with immense wealth and privileges, ensuring they would never struggle again. But beneath the cheers and celebration lay a grim truth. No one truly grasped how many lives had been sacrificed for this single victory. It was the same every year, a deadly tradition that continued to claim countless lives, yet people still volunteered to compete, driven by desperation or hope for glory. Time moved forward, and Kate and Eddie settled into their new lives of luxury, becoming wealthy beyond measure. But in doing so, they too became part of the very system they had once fought against, taking their place as enforcers within the cruel game that controlled the poor. And so, their deadly tale reached its end.